Welcome to the Christian Romance Podcast, where we go behind the books with inspiring Christian romance authors, exploring faith, love, and the journey that brings the story to life. I'm your host, Kelly Jo Wilson, and today we're chatting with Karina Fabian. Karina is an award-winning author, speaker, and comedian whose work blends faith, humor, and imaginative storytelling. With over 45 published books across genres like science fiction and fantasy, she crafts stories that are both entertaining and spiritually enriching. Karina is a founding member and past president of the Catholic Writers Guild, actively supporting faith-based writers. Beyond writing, she brings joy to audiences as a clean Catholic comedian and shares her insights on writing and faith at various events. Be sure to stay tuned to the end of the episode so you can hear more about our newest book giveaway for this month. Now, here's my conversation with Karina. Hi, Karina. I am so happy to have you on the Christian Romance Podcast today. Thank you so much for being here.
Well, thank you for having me, Kelly.
Yes, I can't wait to hear more about your writing journey and just your stories and your series. I have so many friends that are into or writing fantasy and sci-fi also. And I am just so intrigued by it. I love the world building. I love the beautiful art and the covers. And I just can't wait to hear how you do all of those things. And of course, about the romance, of course, about the love story, but I'm in such awe of fantasy authors because the world building is so intense but it's so wonderful and beautiful.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to hear about it.
This series, The Madness of Canaan, is unique because you're talking about world building because the planet itself is a kind of character. And some of the reviews have said, this is the best world as character I've ever seen because it's got a mind of its own. It has its needs and it's going to impress them upon these people.
That is really cool. I cannot wait to hear more about that, which is kind of neat because that's such a good point because I've spoken with some historical romance authors and because it's such a different time that we just are not familiar with, like 1800s, even earlier. The setting almost is like its own character in a way too, because you have to like really dive into what was available then, what you could do.
If you do it right.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Oh, I can't wait to hear about it. Yeah. But why don't you start with just letting our listeners know a little bit more about you, how you got started into writing, how you got to this point with these series, and even what your, faith journey kind of looked like, how God guided you through that.
Well, my writing is actually a direct result of my faith journey. It was 1996, I believe. And I had two little kids. I'd just gotten out of the military. We just moved from Japan back to the United States. Didn't have any friends, didn't have any real adult conversation except for my husband. And I was reading like crazy. And I remember getting really frustrated with this book. And it was right before Lent. So I told God, I'm going to make you a deal. I'm going to give up reading for Lent. I'm going to take up writing for Lent. And then you tell me what you want done with this. And by Easter, I had 2 writing jobs with a local magazine and the diocese magazine. And I was putting out short stories.
Wow, that is really cool. I love that you're like, listen, we're going to make a deal. And he answered. He answered with some opportunities.
Well, and that's how it works. I mean, God wants to give us all of these fabulous things. He expects us to do something for it, too. I mean, you just can't sit around and wait for things to plop into your lap. He's like, hey, there is a path for you. Take that step.
That's amazing. That's just wonderful. I would imagine it was so different, though, especially coming out of the military. Was it a little bit cathartic to be able to write down, like, just to get into that different frame of mind with writing?
No, I've always done writing off and on, even when I was in the military. But when I was in the military, so much of my psychological and emotional energy was going into the job. I was not a good fit for the military. I mean, I did well and I sometimes enjoyed it, but it was a lot of effort for me. And so my writing was not much. when I got out, that then freed me, I guess you could say, to get back into my imagination and into my craziness and silliness. And fortunately, I have a husband who gets paid well enough to do the things he loves. So for the most part, that's what I've gotten to pursue most of my life.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I would imagine, I have never been in the military, and I have so much respect for everyone who does that. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
I will say, even just doing research, I have an Army Ranger medic who's a medic actually. That's one of my characters, and even just doing the research, I'm like, this is very rigid, and it's a different kind of thing that you have to carry, and different like mental toughness that you have to really have, especially like with my character who's a medic.
Yeah, it's combat medic is very
Yes,
very intense.
yes.
Yeah, my husband was actually in the military, retired as a colonel. He was in space operations and missile maintenance, so
Oh,
which is why he's so good in the space field now. But so, and then I was an intel officer, so I can't tell you anything about it. But in a nutshell, I was middle management. I see. I understand what you're talking about with the intensity.
yeah, for sure. Well, you can't have too much. I can't imagine that you would have too much creative freedom there, just because the structure is so important to maintain among everyone and to try to keep that kind of, like that. Unless, I mean, you have some free time and whatnot, but I would imagine that, being out of that now, you can kind of really express your creativity.
Well, I don't know that it was because of the rigid structure and stuff. I think it really was because like I said, I was not suited for that job. I have other jobs that have been equally demanding and yet still given me the time for creativity. So, yeah, I am not blaming the military for my
Yes,
instability.
no.
It
We
was
love
all
the
on me.
We love the military, I'm sure,
I do. I loved being a military wife. We lived in 2 other countries and 11 states here, so we've
Oh,
gotten to
that's
see
cool.
so much. We've had so many wonderful adventures, and the military took great care of us. So it was a very good life. And so now we're retired and very happy to do that too.
Yeah, that's wonderful. What countries did you live in?
I was for 2 years. I lived in Italy.
Oh.
My At that time, my husband was living in Texas and I was living in Italy. So that was our 2 year extended honeymoon because we saw each other for 10 days every 3 or 4 months. And we just hopped back and forth between Italy and Texas to see each other. And then we got together, actually living together when we were both stationed in Japan.
Oh, that's really cool. How
Mm-hmm.
different was it from I would imagine it would be very different in Japan compared to Italy. I've always wanted to go to Italy. I have
Yeah,
family over there.
yeah, it was. It was.
I bet. I bet it was very different. What was it
Mm-hmm.
like?
Italy was so much fun. I went everywhere in Italy. I worked 4 days on, 4 swings, 4 mids, 4 off. So on my 4 off, I'd get on a train and I would go to Rome or Firenze or Venice or we'd tour the local area. I was in San Vito, which is on the heel of the boot, so it was quite a ways from all of the really big spots, but there were beautiful little areas. And people would invite you into their homes. We even had one guy. We were in there in his souvenir shop during lunchtime, and he was just like, come on, come eat with us." We couldn't understand a word of what this man was saying, but we had lunch with his family.
I love it.
And in Japan, it was a little more. Um, there was still a lot of friendliness, especially among the younger generations. But some of the older generations still remembered the war, and so sometimes you would get that standoffishness. But Japan was full of festivals every weekend. You could
Oh,
go to a
that's fun.
festival and see a parade and have squid on a stick, and there were so many great things to do there. But um, I had 2 kids there, so I did not get to do quite the touring I wanted to. Plus, my husband was standing up a brand new unit, And so he was busy all the time. So it was a whole, we were at different points in our life at that point, but loved them both. Absolutely loved them both.
Oh yeah, and that's wonderful. Just memories to make, with your family, just different. And it's neat to see different cultures. I feel like it's important for us because it does make you appreciate a lot of the freedoms that you do have in America and different things that you may not have to worry about. But then I feel like some other cultures really put a lot of emphasis on family in a different way that it's refreshing to witness. I went to Germany when I was 19, and we went for about 10 days, and it was just amazing. I mean, they do not live to work. They work to live, and they shut down everything in the middle of the day. And was it like that in Italy too?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
there was a saying where if you said domani, which means tomorrow, it meant eventually. If you said dopodomani, it meant don't count on this happening anytime soon. So
that's great.
So
and that's,
well, yeah, it is until you need your car repaired.
Until something is really pressing. That makes sense.
Yeah. So
it is if you just want to hang around and eat some good food. Yes, for sure.
Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, they definitely did not in Germany. I mean, I was younger, but they did not seem to be worried about a lot of things. They said that the government took care of a lot of the schooling and the healthcare and different things like that. They weren't really worried about a lot of stuff. The pubs were always open though. They didn't close the pubs down. But yeah, that's so neat. I'm glad that you were able to get that time with your family and now just, hanging out, retired, just enjoying some warm weather in Florida. I think that's wonderful that you and your husband, and he still gets to do what he loves to do with the space, working with the space
Oh yeah,
station.
He loves working with rockets and the new technologies and everything. So, and he's brilliant at it. He's not an engineer necessarily, but he's the kind of man that you tell him this about this part of the rocket, you tell him this about this part of the rocket, you tell him this is what it can do, and then he can take all of that and say, this is what else it can do. This is how else it can work. He is the perfect husband for a science fiction writer because he knows military, he knows leadership, he knows science, he knows how to apply the science, he knows how to creatively apply the science, and he knows tactics. So I need anything, I'm just like, honey.
You got to put him on the payroll.
Oh yes.
For sure. That's so funny. What a good point. I would imagine too, and especially with the military, because I feel like a lot of the science fiction stuff, there's always fights. There's always, some kind of order, even in whatever world you create, so it would definitely be very good to know those different things. I think that's such a good point. That's so neat. And especially with the space stuff, and he could probably come up with a bunch of cool stuff for you.
Oh yeah, he's amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. My husband, I'm surprised how supportive he is. I write contemporary romance, and he's very much a great brainstormer. Like he will let me brainstorm with him at any time, and I'm so grateful for it because it's definitely not his cup of tea. I even asked him, I'm like, are you going to read my book? He's like, yeah, babe, I'll read your book. He's like so supportive that way, but I don't know. I don't know if he will. But he's helped me a lot, especially with the guy parts. But anyway, I want to hear so much about this series. So this book that we're going to be talking about really, or this series, I should say, is Madness of Canaan series. But this first, why don't you talk a little bit about the first book, and then you can talk about, and then let us know about how it kind of leads into the series.
Okay. So Madness of Canaan is
Canaan. Yes. I'm sorry.
Yes, Canaan. Madness of Canaan is about Daryl. He is not crazy. He is psychic. And aliens think that he will save their worlds. So he cannot control his abilities. And between that and aliens trying to contact him and train him up to be a psychic super weapon or to be some kind of an oracle, it's no doubt that the poor kid ended up in an insane asylum. where he has been since he was 13 years old. On his 18th birthday, he's given an unusual present, an intern, 19-year-old Joshua Lawson, who is there because he needed a summer job to earn enough money to pay for school because he lost all his scholarships after he broke up with his girlfriend. And he's got a unique way of doing psychology. It's called neuro-linguistic programming. And what it is you think you are the Queen of England? Well, Your Majesty, let's figure out how you live today as American society. Basically, you're taking the person where they are and giving them the skills to survive in the real world, regardless of the delusion. So he's like, okay, you think you're psychic? Fine, let's figure out how you control these powers. And what do you know? It works. Daryl discovers that this, he doesn't even know it's an alien. He doesn't even know it's a person. All he knows is it's a compulsion. Discovers that this is Tasme, who is basically chosen to save her world and has been introduced to this oracle that for generations has been they called it Yidril, which is an anagram of Daryl's name, who's supposed to give her ideas and information and things. And so she has a ritual for calling him. And then he says, no. He says, I'm not going to do this now. You talk to me. Let's set some ground rules because I'm tired of passing out in my oatmeal. And so they meet and he's like, you're a girl. Oh, the psychs are going to have so much fun with this. So they're developing a relationship, which at this point is just about trying to get along and serve her needs and his needs, and even figure that out because they're aliens to each other. So you have that. That's the one romance line. Now, throughout the series, Daryl is going to find his way back to sanity, escape the asylum, go to Tasme's planet. They meet, they fall in love, and they get married, and she's pregnant. When her world, we talked about my world being a character, her world suddenly imposes this will upon her. You will drain the energy from every living thing that you need to, and you will use it to push the alien planet away from us. This is the basic conundrum. And so now Daryl has to stop her from doing that, but has to find a way to keep the planets from crashing in order to save both worlds and, of course, his wife and his unborn daughter.
Wow, that is very intense.
Mm-hmm.
So Tasme, so when he's psychic initially, was Tasme talking to him from a different time? That's what he realizes?
Was.
Oh,
Except
okay.
He did
didn't
not
know
interpret it as talk. All he interpreted was as this is a compulsion. It was like he would pass out and then come to with this, I have to learn how to build castles because she needed defense. Or I have to learn triage because they were in the middle of a war. And so there was actually barriers that previous people in her position had established to separate Daryl from they called them the Miscrea, which was what Tasme's job is, that separated them so that they did not interact. Because the first time he interacted with the very first Miscrea, they drove each other insane.
Oh.
So, yeah, so the whole second book is about that. It's delicious insanity. It's really good. There's nothing like falling in love with someone and getting schizophrenic at the same time.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, there's so many.
Yeah.
I feel like there's so many tropes here. One is different worlds, like almost Romeo and Juliet kind of thing. You know, they're completely from different worlds. And especially, you know, when she gets this, you know, is it from her planet that's telling her to push away the other planet to basically like attack?
Yeah, that's her planet.
Yeah, that's intense. I mean, I don't even know how they would be able to save that and recover from that. Not to mention her people probably will never accept them. Same with him, right? Like how, you know, there is the second book has a lot of issues about Daryl because he's an alien and they're very suspicious when she says, no, this is the Oracle. They're like,
No. And of course, Daryl doesn't really know what's going on. So, and then there's the subplot with this Joshua and Sachiko romance, and
Oh, okay.
Joshua falls in love with one of the nurses at the asylum, and that one is your more of your contemporary romance, and it's a nice counterbalance between the craziness and the the sweet and the ordinary. And of course, there are their own problems too, because they're both dealing with the aftermaths of abortions. She
Hmm.
was pressured into one by her ex-boyfriend, and then he was basically betrayed by his girlfriend, who didn't even tell him that she was pregnant until she had taken care of the problem. And
Oh.
so there's a lot of healing that is going on for the both of them. And then in the first and second book, and then there's a lot of coming to terms with each other as well. And in the fourth book, they actually get married, and it's just that one's just a kind of a rom-com, and it's very contemporary. And I wrote it because after I finished the trilogy, I had a fan come back and say, "What? Where's the wedding?" So I had to write the wedding, and it was a fiasco. And
I know we love
ex-boyfriend
wedding
makes trouble,
fiascos.
and the bachelor party was a disaster, and they ended up in the emergency room, and all of the cousins were like, "We're sorry, it's our fault, forgive us, Sachiko." It was fun to write. It was
I'm
hilarious.
sure it was. Yes, wedding fiascos are fun and
Mm-hmm.
hilarious usually. So that brings a little humor element there. But then,
Mm-hmm.
there's a wedding, so there is that happily ever after as
Oh
well,
yes, yes.
which is nice. But I love that you touch on, like you said, even in the contemporary piece about the abortion and the healing and things like that, because I feel like in a lot of even especially Christian stories, although I feel like a lot more now are coming out with a lot of issues that are just dealt with real people. I mean, these
Mm-hmm.
things happen so much. I remember reading statistics before about that so many people are afraid to go to the church for support when in reality we really should be supporting each other when these maybe unplanned pregnancies happen, because there is when the woman feels supported, she may be able to preserve life or make a decision. But whenever it's
Mm-hmm.
hidden and she feels like she's just going to be judged from that or because of it, all the kind of rejection that is needed to be able to, like you said, how they say, quote unquote, take care of it. But I feel like there's more Christian authors trying to address real issues like this, which I love because they really happen. And we need to support each other and love on people who are struggling with difficult things. We all sin. We're all sinners. Nobody's better than anyone else.
Sometimes people need to see there's a way out,
Yeah,
that there
for sure.
is a path back to forgiveness. Even as there's a way to see that, this was terribly wrong. Like, for example, in the Madness Bound, Joshua's floored by what happens. But after he breaks up and he deals with the depression, he realizes, I had a role in this because
Mm,
I did something wrong.
hmm.
Then he's like, I have to make steps. So he goes to confession because he is Catholic, and he works toward improving himself so that he doesn't fall into the same traps that he did before.
Yeah, and that's, it's wonderful to be able to see characters that go through that and go
Mm-hmm.
through like that kind of epiphany moment where it's like, "Hey, I'm kind of broken. Like I made this choice too. So what am I going to do now?" Because I feel like a lot of people they get stuck in the guilt and then they don't know where to go from that, like how to surrender it or how
Yes.
to forgive themselves even and to allow God's forgiveness. I feel like that happens so much with abortion, especially on women
Oh
who make the
yeah,
choice
it's
that
really tough.
they aftermath is very, very bad because they cannot ever forgive themselves. And it's very sad because it's not just one life is so affected by this, but really three if you take in the father as well, but also
Hmm.
her, her life and her future too. So I love
Yep.
that. I love that you show that he repents and really does the work to try to heal and just get closer to God. And you said like how he's Catholic. So so you were a founding member of the Catholic Writers Guild. Did you want to talk about that a little bit? Because I love that.
I'd love to.
Yeah, I love that you do that and you try to help. Is it like younger writers? Is it like
No,
teenagers, or is
no.
it just
The
it's other
Catholic
adults?
Writers Guild is an international organization of writers, illustrators, editors,
Oh, wonderful.
some publishers. We are about 600 strong in our paid membership, and we have about another 150 people who are just kind of in our heartbeat chat group that can poke in, ask questions or whatever if they would like. We have been around since 2008. We hold two conferences each year. One
Oh.
is online, the Catholic Writers Conference online. And then the Catholic Writers Conference live is going to be April 29th through May 1st at Naperville. And we still have some openings if anybody wants to come. We have excellent relationships with publishers in both Catholic and secular. So every conference we have pitch sessions where people can come in and meet with the publisher face to face, pitch their books. We've probably started 50 or more careers just through those pitch sessions alone.
Oh.
We have had some people that have grown up in the guild. Now we do not allow people under 18 to be members for liability reasons because we are solely online. We just didn't want to go there.
Mhm.
So when I say grow up, I mean career-wise, that started out just interested and are now major editors at these different organizations as well. So it's a wonderful place, whether you're wanting to do some Catholic writing as a hobby and just looking for support and somebody who shares your interest, or if you are really thinking about building your career and you are looking to make those kind of connections and get the support and education that you need to
Hmm.
grow.
Well, that's wonderful. I love that you guys provide that kind of service and then do the conferences and everything and come together. I think that's wonderful. We are almost at time, but I wanted to ask you too, especially being a fantasy author or like you said, sci-fi or fantasy,
Mhm.
and doing all this world building. Was there a particular Bible verse that kind of carried you through your journey or one that you can apply to Daryl's journey throughout this that kind of is like the theme for the stories?
There are actually two that probably would apply to
Okay.
this series, excuse me. One is Psalm 32:8. I will instruct you and show you the way in which you shall walk, because in the end, that there's a lot of dependence on God and on taking me where I want to go. It was not up to them alone.
Mm.
But also John 16:22. So you also are now in anguish, or rather John 20, sorry. Amen, amen, I say to you, you will weep and mourn while the world rejoices. You will grieve, but your grief will become joy.
That's wonderful. And I can see how that can happen because there's a lot going on with these characters, right? There's a lot going on in the story that it's very difficult things that they have to get through. But then, God will work it together for good and they
Yep.
will eventually have joy in the end. Um, in your fantasy, because I know some fantasy authors will do like God is a little bit of a different it's like a different name for God. Is it like that in your series?
Not in this one, no.
Oh, okay.
In
Okay.
this
So
one, God is God.
God is
Yep.
God.
Because it's grounded in the real world, so I wasn't going to do that. And
Okay.
now
Okay.
the people of Canaan actually have a slightly different salvation history. Um, Still had the trees, but instead of eating before or going ahead and eating the fruit, they waited. And eventually God said, you are ready now. You are old enough. And this is why they became psychic. And then there were some that said, well, if we wait now and we keep waiting, there's something even better. And so instead of eating when God told them to eat, they decided to wait. And because of that, they started losing their connection to the world. And they actually start losing who they are because they're so focused on the afterlife that the children don't eat, they don't drink, they don't even notice things. And eventually they die unless they bond with certain animals who are wild until they bond with these people, and they call them the bond friends. And so it's an animal human pairing that basically share their minds so that one has civilization and sapience and the other has a connection to our earth. Or not our earth.
That's interesting. And that's an interesting take too on the garden, like what happened in Garden of Eden, how God was like, don't eat. And then we chose to defy him. And then in that one, he's like, go ahead and eat. And then they chose to defy him still. So it's still kind of two types of sin there. You know, it's just a different kind of take. That's really interesting. That's neat. I like how you did that.
Thanks.
But yes, I love it. I love it so much. So Karina, why don't you let our listeners know where the best place to get your wonderful books in your series and where best can they connect with you?
Probably the easiest thing is to go to KarinaFabian.com. That's KarinaFabian.com. You can go into the books section and that will show you all of my books, or you can click on the Madness of Canaan. And the other thing that you can do is if you go into that book section, and it's kind of overwhelming, I have 50 books, but you can sign up for my newsletter and you get a free book. And in that book has that book is a story collection from 5 of my worlds. And so you'll get a little bit about my Dragon Detective, about my Star Trek parody, but the one for the Madness of Canaan is about Daryl before he's committed to the asylum, and he's having to deal with all of these voices and being psychic and having no control, all on his own.
Very cool. I love that. And I love that you have a little collection that you give. You know, I think that's wonderful. You got to go and sign up and get on Karina's newsletter.
Yep, I'll put all the links. It's on any page in the website. You'll see to sign up for that.
Wonderful. And I'll put a link in the show notes too. So whoever's listening right now, they can just go right to the show notes and just click on it. And that is it. That's all they have to do. But thank you so much, Karina. I appreciate you stopping by today and sharing your heart and sharing your story and telling us more about this wonderful series. And just thank you so much for what you do.
Thanks. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to hit subscribe and tap the bell so you never miss a new release. We love blessing our listeners with exclusive author chats and, of course, amazing books. Each month, we host a themed book giveaway where you can win a bundle of Christian romance novels and a few fun extras, too. This month's theme is one that's especially close to my heart: contemporary love. We're giving away 6 heartfelt stories that reflect the beauty of real-life romance. From second chances and small-town charm to grumpy sunshine pairs and creative careers, these books deliver all the feels, and I'm so excited to share them with you. Whether you're listening right when the episode drops or tuning in later, you can always find the latest giveaway at ChristianRomancePodcast.com. Thanks so much for listening, and until next time, keep your faith, share the love, and happy reading.